Hey everyone, welcome back. It is Wednesday in our weekly series of talking to experts. That means Wednesday we are talking to Anna Kelly. How you doing, Anna?
I'm great, Michael. How are you today?
I'm doing very well. And again, just in case you don't know, Anna was the original expert we started speaking with. We're probably on now week 24 or 25 of speaking together. So Anna, thank you very much for being a trailblazer and really laying the path for this whole series. Thank you.
Oh, thanks for having me.
You got it. So another subscriber question actually was called out to, Anna and Michael. Here's the question. So people, if you're watching this and you have questions for real estate experts, all you have to do is leave a comment below. And I'm the only person that sees these. And then I just take note of them and bring them to the various experts. So if you have questions you want Anna and I to address, leave comments below and we will we'll take care of it every week. So Anna, today's question is about staying organized. I had made a comment during one of my daily videos about, it's that time of year again. It's tax time, and I've got hours of preparation ahead of me. And somebody asked, well, how do you stay organized? What do you do? Do you use any apps? Just kind of threw it out there. So I thought I'd ask you what you've done, and I'll talk about what I do, and maybe we even answer it twofold. What did we do before we left work and after? Because I know my life's gotten a lot more complex after. So what do you think about that question?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think it's something that we've really got to get a handle on. The more that we do and the more investment properties we have, the more there is to juggle and to not forget. And,
Mm-hmm.
it's impossible, especially as you get older, for you to just remember everything that you have to do and everything on your plate.
Yeah.
And I get better and better at my organization skills. But even now, occasionally I won't write something down in my normal place and I'll
Mm-hmm.
go, oh no, I totally forgot about that. So um, I did project management for years and years at my corporate job. And so I got very used to having to, schedule and juggle a lot of different things. And on the work side, we used different softwares, software project management tools, and also Excel tools where we, tracked deadlines and things that we had to get done. And then that just gave me some good habits to get into in tracking what you've got to do and keeping it all in one place. So Michael, I used to have notebooks and sticky notes, and then I'd be on the fly, and before we had Evernote and things like that on our phone, I would make notes and then I'd forget to transfer them and I'd forget things that I shouldn't do. And
Yeah.
after doing that enough times and going, my memory is not quite as good as I thought it was,
Yeah.
it's time to get more strategic. And so the main two tools that I use, they're kind of old school, but I still use them. I'll say three.
Okay.
Are I use my Google Calendar. I am an Android user. I have a Samsung Galaxy S10 Plus, and I like Google because it integrates across my email and some different things. And on my Google Calendar, I really have started utilizing time blocking for things that I need to do in certain windows. And so that keeps me on track, only dealing with certain tasks at certain times.
Mm-hmm.
And it helps me. So for example, I know, every Wednesday we have a Zoom call. Every Thursday I'm all in asset management and I'm out at my properties and doing that type of thing. And so you get to where you kind of know what you've got on what days because of really good time blocking in chunks. That's helped me tremendously. Then the other two tools that I use are Excel. I still use Excel to run my life, literally. Yeah. Everything that I do is on one master spreadsheet, and I've got lots and lots of tabs. I've got tabs for to do, personal to do and professional to do. And I still have a long to-do list that has categories, by kids and health and friends and, miscellaneous things I've got to do. And I tag them urgent, must do this week, must do within a month, or nice to do when time permits. And I look at it every single day. And during my time block where I'm taking care of personal financial things, I go into that to-do list and I knock out the urgent and the things I got to do this week during that time block. And then I move, the next hour pops up on my phone that now it's time to shift gears to asset management. I move to my tab that deals with asset management, and I've got the same thing: urgent, must do this week, must do this month, nice to do when time permits. And so
Wow.
my basic organizational tools are those two things.
Hmm.
And then I've got a tab for every property, and I've got tabs for, tenants and kids stuff, all kinds of things. It's just there. And what that's helped me to do, Michael, is to stop taking sticky notes and paper
Yes.
notes, and not having everything in different places. Some papers are in my office and some are in my purse, and
Yeah.
I just had to get rid of paper, because
Yeah.
paper is what really had me scattered and forgetting where I put things. And when you're working lots and lots of hours and you have kids, it's so easy to mindlessly place something somewhere and think, oh, I'll remember where I put it, and then
Yeah.
not.
Yeah.
So everything is in Excel. If I'm on the run now, I use Evernote on my phone, and that
Okay.
way I can at least put the note on my phone.
Yeah.
And then when I sit down and I'm at my allocated time to deal with asset management or daily stuff I need to do, I have something pop up on my phone every morning that says, "This is your time to look at what you have to do today." I
Cool.
transfer my Evernote stuff into my spreadsheet, and then I live on that spreadsheet and on my computer till I knock it all out.
That is funny. Yeah, you and I live very similar lives. Right. When you talk about the apps that I have, Excel is the number one thing. I'm trying to think. So I have an iPhone, right? And I have like literally 4 apps on it. Pandora, like when I go running,
Uh-huh.
United, because I used to be a 1K flyer. I never use that anymore, but I don't have lots of apps, right? My life
Yeah.
is Excel. The one thing that I did slight, and it may be in your tabs, is like you, I have a tab for every property. And as I've shared in past videos, I was an accountant right out of college, right? So my world
Mm.
was monthly. The one thing that I did right away, because again, I even when we just had that one house on Norris Drive, is I basically replicated the Schedule E, right? Schedule E from the federal
Yeah.
tax return that has all the categories that my accountant looks at, right? So I'm like, okay, if that's the format in this case, he has to put it in, I'm going to track all of my expenses monthly by the Schedule E. So it just adds up totals for that property. So I've been doing that since we had one house. We still use the same format today. It's obviously a lot more complex. I now have summary tabs because I have to tie to 9 different 1099s and all of that. And you're always off a couple of bucks, but always tie to the 1099 because that's what the IRS will send you a letter on if you don't do it. Um, so that's the one thing I did is I actually reformatted the Schedule E, and it's only like 20 rows, right, of
Yeah.
expenses, right? So um, that's the one thing I did that everybody could replicate really easily. And then and then I did it monthly, right? The Schedule E is about a yearly, but I think in monthly because again, it's about passive income. It's about the
Yeah.
net each month. So I do that, and then I summarize, have one master for our portfolio. That's what I did up until I left work, right? And I left my W-2. This is the first year I'm filing with 0 W-2 income because I worked through February the year
Wow.
before. And I can tell you my life's gotten more complex because now I'm a real estate professional. And what that allows you to do is you
Yes.
have so many other expenses that you can legally claim, more LLCs, right? The book and the course I have is its own set. So I am still running by Excel, but have found that I need to up my game because of the number of entities and frankly the flexibility of being a real estate professional allows me to do, which as a high income W-2 you couldn't do, right? All these expenses you
Right.
couldn't take. Now because I'm a professional, I get to take top line expenses, right off the income, and then everything else. So um, it's a
Yeah.
lot of fun to
It's
see what
so
I can write
funny.
off.
You're like,
Yeah.
yeah, we're exactly alike. You're like
Yeah.
the male version of me, Michael. I'm
Yeah.
I'm telling you. Every week I think that. So I do almost exactly the same thing.
Yeah.
So I've questioned at what point do I need to move to something else
Mm,
like QuickBooks or different accounting software. But for me, because I have everything so streamlined, I have lots of different LLCs. And
yeah.
within one LLC, I have up to 10 properties per LLC,
Yeah.
a topic for another time.
Yep.
But basically, I have a whole year laid out that's a ledger on each tab.
Yes.
That's here's the LLC and here's my ledger. And
Yeah.
by property, I categorize things. So like I have a code of 1 for rents, and 2 for taxes, and
Yep.
3 for insurance. And then by property, the first 3 digits of the address, I have 1.813 for an
Yeah.
813 East Main Street.
Yep.
And I categorize all my ins and outs. And even though I could use QuickBooks, what I like about being able to do it is I can project my entire year, and I do,
Yeah.
where I can look at this is where I'm going to be at the end of every single month. It's completely projected out, and I can just, input the info, and it automatically transfers to my summary tab,
Yeah.
which is along the lines of my Schedule E,
Yeah.
which I then give to my accountant that has every LLC, every
Yep.
property. All he's got to do is knock it on pop it into the Schedule E.
Right.
So it makes my life so much easier because it's a system that I have down, where if I move to something like QuickBooks, I lose that ability to really project out for a full year
Yeah.
and to make modifications, that I want to. So I'm talking to my accountant right now. He's like, this is great, but your life would be so much easier with QuickBooks. I'm like, yeah, but then I lose a lot of that
Yeah.
control, being
Yeah.
able to customize stuff in Excel. So I haven't moved over to it yet. We're in talks about whether it really makes sense for me to do it and
Yeah.
what it really gets me to do it. But for now,
Yeah. For
my
me,
system works.
yeah. For
Yeah.
me, it's kind of the reverse. I do like the projecting out and all of that, but for me, I have so much history, right? Almost 20 years
Yeah.
where I've actually
Hmm.
done averages, right? I can take all my single family homes, throw them up, do monthly averages, yearly averages, 5-year averages, so I can find outliers easier,
Yeah.
right? So I have the same
Sure.
conversation with my accountant. There's a chance I might go to QuickBooks for one of our LLCs, but I doubt it. I mean, in fairness,
Hmm.
I'll never move my properties over there because I don't want to lose that 20 years of history. And if I go to QuickBooks, then I'm going to start inputting that year, but then I won't be able to. It's just, yeah, it's a cute idea, but unless you can transfer all my
Yeah.
history, it's just not going to happen. And it's fine. It takes
Yeah.
me.
At least for the things that you own,
Yeah,
like
yeah,
my bigger complexes, we have a separate accountant
for
for each of
sure.
the complexes, and they've got their P&Ls, and we just get a K1, and
Yeah,
that just gets dropped into another spreadsheet. So for that stuff, absolutely.
for
But
sure.
for the smaller properties that we self-manage, I think it makes sense to kind
Yeah,
of have that level of control. And really every online tool, a lot of them are moving to online, so you have to pay a monthly subscription that
sure.
just keeps going up and up and up, and there's no flexibility to play with the fields. And so I
Yeah,
just, I like having that control
yeah.
and the knowledge, and like you said, the history to be able to just see
Yeah, the
things. So
control's a big deal for me too. I got to admit, I am a
yeah.
control freak. It's kind of like why I hate flying because I'm not in charge. But anyway, that's a different conversation. So how do you? So that's funny. The other thing I've done is because we have to keep all the receipts. Is I actually have two. I mean, it sounds bad, but you can think of them as shoe boxes. They're not shoe boxes, but think of it that way. That I take copious notes on every receipt immediately. Right? If I go to a client dinner, I write down the person's name, the dates, the property we talked on, because I'll be using a credit card that I just insert on my spreadsheet,
Yes.
but I want the receipt. So it goes right into the credit card. If for some reason I'm doing McDonald's or something with someone and I pay cash, I have another box that says cash, right? So,
Yeah.
yeah, I do everything I can with receipts. The second I get the bill, like before I sign the bill, I will make the notes on my copy. That's another thing
Do
that I
you
do.
just file them, or do you scan them into anything?
I do not scan them. No, basically my credit card gives me a yearly statement, which I use. And then the shoebox. Hey, if you have questions about them, they're all in here. I don't go
Yes.
through
I
them.
do the same thing. And at one point, I had these grand ideas that I was always going to scan them in.
Ah,
Everything was going to be electronic. And you just get so busy that it's like I end up with piles and piles, and I never get to scanning them.
yeah, I
And
did the
I
same
kind of
thing.
feel like too, if I've got the statements and I've got my Excel records, that should be sufficient. And a lot of times too, these receipts, they start to fade.
Yeah,
So like Lowe's, their receipts within a year, you can't read them. So
yeah,
it's like, I can say, hey, here's the receipts, but those
yeah,
notes will help,
yeah.
somewhat.
You
But
got to write them. You got to write the notes. They're going to want to see, right? I mean, again, before I sign the bill, I make my notes on my copy every time. I mean,
Yeah,
it's just a habit. So, and then what do you
that's
do
great.
with all the paperwork, right? Closing statements and deeds and, all of that. I assume you have a file with each property name, I'm guessing.
I do, I have started getting better about at least scanning those things in, the
Mm,
things that if there was a fire, I really need to be able to reference back. So I have the HUD and I have my leases scanned and I have copies in Dropbox
hmm.
and also in OneDrive and on my computer. And that
Oh,
way I've
wow.
got 3 copies of everything in case somebody, challenges me.
Yep.
And then everything else, though, all the ancillary documents I have in files. I have
Yeah.
plastic tubs that have everything and I keep things as long as I need to. Most things every 2 or 3 years I'll go through those bins and toss stuff that I don't need anymore for the IRS because I've passed the
Yeah.
audit period.
Yeah.
But all my original closing documents I keep and I have them in plastic bins.
Yeah. Same thing here. I actually don't have 3 copies. I have 2. So I got to think about that. But the other thing I do is for the year, I'll have, like you saying, the bin, the tub. So I have it in my office, like what we're doing and categorized in the order that I add them. But then I take
Yeah.
that to a storage facility, right? After so many years of doing this, the bins get big. So one of my yearly
Yes.
expenses is storage because my files
Yes.
are sitting in a storage facility about 10 miles away, just in
Wow.
case, right? So um,
Right.
that's pretty funny. Oh man, all the paperwork. Yeah, someday it'll be all electronic. Um,
It
so any
is.
kind,
The hard thing is even with these like backup systems, well, okay, what if Dropbox ever or Google Drive or
yeah,
OneDrive, what if any of them ever have a massive,
yeah,
data issue and they lose your files? So
yeah,
that's the only reason I've like automatically backed up at both places. And like twice a year, I will go in and try to, delete some stuff that I don't need anymore as it fills up. But it's just this data world, if
yeah.
everything is online and that provider loses everything,
Oh,
you
yeah,
could be in trouble if it's
yeah,
leases and things like that that you need, to
yeah.
prove an eviction or something like that. So,
That's funny. I've never actually gone back and purged. I guess I can go back and throw away some of my older stuff. I just keep adding
well, when you
boxes.
start getting notices that you're 91% full,
Yeah,
95% full, and you're like, gosh, I got a lot of data, you
yeah,
know,
that's a lot
then I
there.
start going back. I do have folders like former tenant leases, and
Yeah,
once they haven't lived there in a year or two and they're not going to challenge a security deposit or something, it's like,
yeah,
okay, it's gone,
very,
at
very
least
cool.
from one of the sources. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Um, now that you've been out, have you changed how you're tracking, like your cell phone, right? When you were a W-2 employee, you probably weren't expensing your cell phone, right? Have you noticed that you now are empowered to have so many other top line expenses added because now you're a real estate professional?
Yes, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, it's
Yeah, now
amazing.
I expense pretty much everything. So,
Yeah.
and I, I've gotten more complicated since I left because I've started doing syndications
Yeah.
and I have, a coaching and speaking
Hmm.
business and different LLCs,
Hmm.
self-directed 401ks and the
Yeah.
trusts that go along with that.
Oh,
And so you just have many more different things. And also as a real estate professional, you have to prove your hours to some
yep.
extent. So again, 2019, I still was an employee for 5 months. And
Right.
so I track, my hours through Google Voice and email and any communications to prove that I was working on these things this many hours. And I guess once you're a full-time real estate professional, you don't have a job that year, you probably don't have to track your hours.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. For 19, you'll have to prove it. I think it's at least 1,000 hours because you worked 5 months, which would be sub 1,000 hours. You have to prove that, as
sure.
I understand it, that you've worked more hours on
Yes.
your real estate than you did your day job.
Yes.
Um, yeah.
Absolutely.
The other thing I'll say to folks is, again, as a high W-2 employee, you can't take losses and all of those things. But being a real estate professional, it is as good as people make it out to be in books. I am probably
Yeah.
writing off $75,000 in expenses that I normally would have just eaten if I was a W-2 employee,
Mhm.
um, because
Right.
they're legit business expenses. So, it's
Absolutely.
it's it is as good as people say. So keep going one at a time, get there. And then when you have your monthly nut covered, because again, you're living below your means, the other side of the coin is greener, is better, which I wasn't sure it was, right? You hear this all the time. Yeah. But yeah, it's pretty nice.
It is. It is.
Yeah. So that's that topic. Hopefully that answered the questions. Again, that was a subscriber question directed at Anna and myself. If you have subscriber questions, leave them below. We will get at it. Given Anna's background in the finance world, I wanted to ask her about this stock market shaking news and see what her
Mm.
thoughts have been the last 3 or 4 days, given what we've seen. Are you even tracking that, or are you just a real estate person? You never even look anymore?
Oh no, I'm watching because I think it's really important to understand where we are in the
Mhm.
economy, how that might impact later real estate, or maybe teeter us closer to a recession if we're already, somewhat um, vulnerable to a shift at some point. I'm also, talking to investors who have been very nervous about the stock market, who I've been warning to
Yeah.
take a cautious approach, that at some point this just cannot be sustained because we are still so overvalued
Yeah.
in general in the stock market. So when you're overvalued and then you have anything that shakes consumer sentiment, because as we've talked about before, the market values are highly driven on consumer sentiment more than they are the intrinsic value of these companies and their
Amen.
actual PE earnings
Yep.
ratios. And so, as coronavirus and Brexit and all these kind of things spook consumers so much that there starts to be a huge sell-off like we've seen in the last couple of days, we're
Mhm.
definitely, moving in correction territory. And so I think that we need to be really, really careful. Some people I see are starting to buy because we're at lows. So the question
Ah,
is, okay, you're buying, but is it going to go down further? Is this
yeah.
really the best time to buy? Or is it going to go further and then you're going to lose money by buying? But, the old adage of be greedy when people are scared and scared when people are greedy,
Yeah.
there's some truth to that. But I
Oh,
think that where we are in the market, I think we're still overvalued. And I think that there's more of this to come. How long will it last? I don't know.
yeah.
But I think we're on, this kind of thing, this kind of scare, and then the scare that happens after the sell off. So because other people are selling, now
Mm,
people are going, oh no, now I need to sell. Now I need to get out. And so it's kind of like a self-fulfilling prophecy that
yeah.
it continues to go down for a while. So with all the yield curve inversions that we've had, and now this kind of thing,
Yeah.
I'm just cautiously watching to say how much further is it going to dip, and will the Fed be able to do anything to stop it, continue to cut rates,
Yeah.
and try to stave it off. And my suspicion, as we've talked about before, is probably before the election the government's going to do everything they can to keep the economy strong,
Yeah.
and to keep it from sliding into a recession. But it's just very interesting how something like a virus, who,
Yeah.
quite frankly, not to minimize it, but the number of people that were killed in the US last year by flu alone
Yeah.
far exceeded
Oh,
the number of people that are dying worldwide through coronavirus. And so I think the scare is maybe overheated. It's too soon to tell till we know how bad it really is. But
mhm.
anytime we have these kind of threats, avian flu, it was, 10 years ago, it spooks consumer sentiment, and it impacts markets in
It
some
is
way. So I'm glad I'm
100.
in real estate. I'm
Yeah.
glad I'm out of equities.
Yeah. Amen. I'm glad I'm in real estate and out of equities. But frankly, I would have told you that last Friday as well before
Yes,
this,
we've talked about this.
Yeah.
Yeah, for
No,
sure.
totally get it. But the big point I want to highlight there is the reason I do my daily kind of news update videos, which is the first thing I do every day on my channel, is because I am tracking two things. One is the consumer. And what we have going on right now today is the mania, the fear is far outpacing reality today. But oh, by the way, in my
Yes.
experience, we ain't seen nothing yet, right?
Yeah.
I've heard people say, like, I went to Fresno the other day, which is in the Central Valley where I invest. No cases, zero. There were 3 people that decided not to join a group lunch because they didn't want to be in a group setting.
Wow.
Consumer behavior is changing. If you don't think
Yeah.
restaurants, hotels, cruise ships, airlines, malls are going to be impacted by this, you're not paying attention, right? Earnings are
Yeah.
coming down. And I believe there is plenty of pain coming forward because, again, my small sample size in a city with 0 cases, consumer behavior is changing.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
fear
And
begets more fear.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, we're driven by emotion, and that's
Yeah,
why, that's why a market that may be overheated at a time when we're at a top of a market and at the end of a long expansion period, emotions is what could tip us over more than
yeah.
the actual fundamentals. And so it's just a great time to be in real estate.
Oh,
I don't want to
amen.
bash equities because
No.
there's a place in most people's portfolio for stocks, but I just think right now
Yeah.
the stock market is not where you want to be because of that
N-
exact emotional reaction to
Yeah.
everything and
Yeah.
anything that gets people spooked.
And again, I did this in 2000. I did it again in '08. If you think there's fear in the market because you had 1,910 points lost in 2 days, you're not paying attention. That's nothing, right? We're at
Yeah,
26,000 or whatever it is. If you go down 30%, that's when you have fear. So what is that? 26,052. So that's like 7,800 points. That's when fear
yeah,
is going to happen. And 1,900 is nothing. It's not even 7%. It's not even a
right,
correction
right,
yet, right? Let alone a bear
right.
market. So anybody that's investing the last 5 to 10 years, you know nothing. This is a blip. This is a yawn. This you ain't seen nothing
Yeah,
yet. Just wait. But the other thing that I track
yeah,
is cost of capital, and that stuff's
hmm,
getting cheap. Record
yes,
10-year yield low. 30-year last time I checked at 1.81. Can you imagine borrowing 30%, 30 years at 1.81? Right? That's a 30-year
it's
bond,
crazy.
by the
Yeah,
way. But it's going to
yeah.
get cheaper to buy real estate. It's going to get cheaper to refi real
And I
estate.
heard yesterday, yeah, I heard yesterday that the Fed has made a statement that they suspect two more cuts this year. I mean, we're going to be into
Oh,
negative interest rate territory. So,
yeah.
I was getting a little nervous because we have a property that we're back and forth on, trying to get the final contract signed. And I'm like, I want to lock in while rates are low, but they're staying low.
Yeah.
And hopefully, they will for the rest of the year. But
Yeah. It's funny because
there's no better time to be in real estate
no.
when interest rates are so low, as long as you're finding deals that make sense in conservative areas. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's just these things just make me happy that I
Yeah.
am in real estate. That's all I can think of.
Yeah, the other thing so again, I've been very clear about what I'm doing in my business. So I sold off a couple of apartment buildings here recently, but I had another one listed that actually I took off. I'm going to invest some capital into it, probably the tune of 100 grand. So all new windows, new doors. I'm going to take off the swamp coolers, put on dual packs. They're little 520 square feet, one bedrooms, all one story, put on a new roof, stucco the exterior. It's mainly brick now. Repave
Yeah.
basically I'm going to do everything. And then I'm going to go refi that thing, right? I'm just by
Ah,
refinancing it, I'm going to probably cut my payment in half because again, I've owned it I've had 12 years of payment, so the balance is lower,
yeah.
all of that. But I'm going to go recast the loan. I'm going to take it from a 6% probably to 4, maybe even 3.8. It's a commercial loan, and I'm just going to be printing more cash flow. So
Yeah.
that's again,
That's
this is
great.
yeah. Again, if you don't have to go buy new stuff, you can. If you've been into this a while, go improve the stuff you have and increase rents and
Yeah,
refinance. So that's
definitely.
that's something
Yeah.
I'm doing this year. So
Yeah,
yeah,
that's great.
yeah. So anything else that kind of comes top of mind? I know we were running our big businesses together. Anything else you think we should talk about before we call it a wrap for this one?
I think that's good. I mean, I'm like you, I've got a couple properties that we need to put a little money into, and so we're
Yeah,
thinking about doing that now. I've got another one I'm supposed to close on hopefully Friday,
yeah,
and another one that I just put on the market, a day ago, and I've already got a bunch of people that want to see it. So it's a good time to sell, but it's a
yep,
good time to take that equity and buy. And then for the properties that you want to keep, a good time to reevaluate,
yep.
like you said, updating it and doing a cash out refi at extremely low rates.
Yeah, it's gonna be. I am very happy to be in real estate to steal your line from earlier.
Can you tell we love real estate?
Yeah, exactly. We talk every week
It's
about this stuff.
rental real estate.
Yes,
Rental real estate.
very good point.
Residential rental real estate.
Very cool, Anna. Well, thank you very much for giving me some time today. You enjoy and have a wonderful day.
Thanks. You too, Michael.
Thanks.
Bye bye.